Greetings everyone, we're gathered here to figure out WTF was, is, or will be F-15 Eagle. Let's dive in. The McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle is a powerful twin-engine fighter jet designed to operate in any weather condition. Initially developed by McDonnell Douglas, which later became part of Boeing, this aircraft was created to fill a crucial role for the United States Air Force, USAF. Back in 1969, after evaluating various options, the USAF chose the F-15 design to fulfill their need for an air superiority fighter that could dominate the skies. The F-15 first flew in July 1972 and officially entered service 4 years later in 1976. Since then, it has built an incredible reputation, boasting over 100 aerial combat victories without a single loss. A majority of these victories have come from Israeli pilots who have showcased the aircraft's superiority in air-to-air combat. This fighter jet hasn't just served the US well, it has been exported to several other countries, including Israel, Japan, and Saudi Arabia. Although the F-15 was initially crafted solely for air combat dominance, it was built with the ability to carry out ground attacks, a feature that, in its early years, was largely overlooked. However, the jet's adaptability allowed for the development of the F-15E Strike Eagle, a version designed for all-weather strikes. This variant came into service in 1989 and has also been exported to multiple nations, proving its versatility on a global scale. Initially, the USAF intended to replace all of its F-15s with the newer F-22 Raptors by the 2010s. However, due to cuts in the F-22 program, the Air Force had to keep some of its older F-15C and D models operational until 2026. To maintain air superiority, the F-15EEX Eagle II was introduced as a new replacement. Meanwhile, the F-15E Strike Eagle is expected to remain in active service well into the 2030s. With ongoing production and newer enhanced versions being made, the F-15 continues to serve with various air forces around the world. The development of the F-15 Eagle began during the Vietnam War era, when both the U.S. Air Force and Navy were debating what the next generation of tactical aircraft should be. At the time, Defense Secretary Robert McNamara pushed both branches of the military to use as many shared aircraft designs as possible, even if it meant making compromises in performance. This led to the launch of the TFX program, which aimed to create an aircraft capable of medium-range bombing for the Air Force and long-range interception for the Navy, eventually resulting in the F-111. In early 1965, McNamara also tasked the Air Force with considering a more affordable tactical fighter for short-range missions and close air support, replace older jets like the F-100 Super Sabre. Several existing aircraft could meet this need. The Navy preferred attack-focused planes such as the Douglas A-4 Skyhawk and LTV A-7 Corsair II, while the Air Force leaned toward the Northrop F-5, fighter with some attack abilities. The A-4 and A-7 excelled in attack roles, but the F-5 stood out for its ability to defend itself. However, if the Air Force went with a pure attack plane, they would still need another aircraft to maintain air superiority. That same year, a report suggested the Air Force should consider buying either the F-5 or A-7, while also looking into developing a higher-performance aircraft for air superiority. This idea gained more weight after the loss of two Republic F-105 Thunder Chiefs to older MiG-17 fighters during an attack on the Than Hoa Bridge in April 1965. By April 1965, Harold Brown, who was then the Department of Defense's Director of Research and Engineering, backed the idea of looking into the F-5 while beginning studies for what would become the FX project. Early proposals for the FX projected building 800 to 1,000 planes, with a focus on maneuverability over raw speed. There was also a requirement that the aircraft have at least some ground attack capability. In August of that year, General Gabriel Desesway took over command of the Tactical Air Command and further pushed for the FX project. Though he lowered the speed requirement from Mach 3.0 to Mach 2.5 in order to keep costs under control. By the end of 1965, Air Force had put together an official document outlining their requirements for an air superiority fighter. This request was sent out to 13 different companies in December. A month before that, in November, the Air Force had decided to go with the A-7 over the F-5 for its support roles, further emphasizing the need for a new air superiority-focused aircraft, since the A-7 had little air-to-air combat ability. 8 companies submitted their proposals, and after an initial review, 4 were selected to refine their designs. These teams came up with around 500 different concepts, many of which included features like variable sweep wings and a weight of over 60,000 pounds. Some designs could reach speeds of up to Mach 2.7 with a thrust-to-weight ratio of 0.75. However, by mid-1966, when the proposals were closely examined, many of the designs were almost as large and heavy as the F-111, which made them unsuitable as air superiority fighters. As the Vietnam War unfolded, it became clear that the current theories of air combat weren't holding up in real-world situations. Focus had been on long-range missile engagements, with aircraft designed primarily for speed and radar capabilities. This approach led to the creation of heavy fighters like the McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II, which was heavily used by the U.S. Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps. While the F-4 had the power, range, and technology to maintain air superiority against Soviet-made fighters, it had significant limitations in close-range combat. Its lack of agility and the absence of a built-in gun became serious drawbacks when fights moved into visual range. In practice, American pilots often found themselves up against smaller, more agile enemy planes, like the MiG-21, which were designed for short-range dogfights. The missiles, which were supposed to be the primary weapon in these engagements, turned out to be far less reliable than expected, especially when used in close quarters. The situation worsened when American planes, optimized for long-range strikes, struggled to keep up with the maneuverable day fighters they faced. The introduction of the M61 Vulcan cannon on the F-4 helped, but it was clear that a new approach to fighter design was needed. This led to a rethinking of the 1963 Project Forecast doctrine and the rise of John Boyd's energy maneuverability theory. Boyd's ideas emphasized that a fighter's power and ability to maneuver were far more critical than sheer speed. He, along with a group of like-minded advocates known as the Fighter Mafia, pushed hard for a new, lighter fighter to dominate dogfight. By 1967, they proposed a design with a thrust-to-weight ratio close to 1:1, a top speed of Mach 2.3, and a weight around 40,000 pounds. These specifications also called for a wing loading of 80 pounds per square foot, making the aircraft lighter and more agile than the heavy long-range fighters used in Vietnam. Meanwhile, the Navy was facing its own issues with the F-111. The aircraft wasn't meeting the Navy's needs, leading them to develop a new fighter under the VFAX program. In May 1966, McNamara once again asked the military branches to evaluate whether the VFAX could meet both Navy and Air Force needs. After a lengthy study, which took 18 months, the conclusion was that the requirements were simply too different. The Navy needed a plane that could stay in the air for long periods and perform multiple missions, while the Air Force was more focused on maneuverability and air combat dominance. In 1967, the Soviet Union unveiled the Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-25 at an airfield near Moscow, causing waves of concern within the U.S. defense community. The MiG-25 was a high-speed, high-altitude interceptor, built specifically to hit speeds over Mach 2.8. To reach these speeds, the aircraft used stainless steel rather than aluminum, increasing its weight and demanding a larger wing to maintain its altitude capabilities. In the U.S., this aircraft seemed alarmingly similar to the large FX designs under study, combining high speed with impressive maneuverability. This raised serious concerns within the Department of Defense about whether the U.S. was being outpaced in fighter technology. The MiG-23 had already drawn attention, but now with the MiG-25's superior speed and altitude, it seemed that even the FX would struggle to compete with these new Soviet aircraft. This intensified the push to improve the FX. Both the U.S. Air Force and Tactical Air Command wanted a multi-role fighter, but high-ranking officials like General Gabriel Dissosway and Chief of Staff Bruce K. Holloway argued for a fighter focused solely on air superiority. Meanwhile, the Navy had scrapped its VFAX program and moved forward with the VFX design, which eventually became the Grumman F-14 Tomcat. The F-14, though smaller and more agile, was much closer to the Air Force's FX requirement. Eventually, concerns that the Navy's fighter might be imposed on them helped settle the internal debate. By May 1968, the Air Force confirmed that the FX would be designed as a dedicated air superiority fighter. Later that year, the Air Force sent out a request for proposals to major aerospace companies. They were looking for a single-seat fighter that could take off with a maximum weight of 40,000 pounds and reach speeds up to Mach 2.5. The aircraft needed a thrust-to-weight ratio close to 1:1 and would feature twin engines for faster throttle response. There was some flexibility in the radar design, as it was unclear whether to prioritize detecting enemies at long range or making the aircraft less detectable. By the end of 1968, 4 companies submitted proposals. After evaluating the options, the Air Force narrowed the field, awarding contracts to Fairchild Republic, North American Rockwell, and McDonnell Douglas for further development. After technical proposals were reviewed, McDonnell Douglas was chosen on December 23, 1969, to move forward with the F-15, bypassing the usual prototype stage to save time and avoid delays that might risk the project's cancellation. Interestingly, the winning design shared similarities with the Navy's twin-tail F-14, though the F-15 had fixed wings. The first versions of the F-15 were the single-seat model and the two-seat TF-15 variant, later renamed the F-15A and F-15B. These models were equipped with new Pratt & Whitney F-100 engines, giving them a thrust-to-weight ratio greater than 1:1. An experimental 25mm cannon with caseless ammunition was initially considered, but was dropped in favor of the tried-and-tested M61 Vulcan gun. The F-15 also carried 4 Sparrow missiles using a conformal mounting, a feature inherited from the Phantom. The design was intended to last 4,000 flight hours, though later upgrades extended this lifespan to 8,000 hours, with some planes flying even longer. The F-50A made its first flight on July 27, 1972, followed by the F-50B in July 1973. One of the key innovations of the F-15 was its look-down, shoot-down radar, which could identify low-flying targets against ground clutter, making it far more effective in a wider range of combat scenarios. The aircraft also integrated advanced computer systems to reduce pilot workload, allowing one pilot to manage the aircraft instead of the 2 required by the F-14 or F-4. With a single canopy frame, the F-15 offered excellent visibility, giving the pilot a clear view of the battlefield. The Air Force hailed the F-15 as their first dedicated air superiority fighter since the North American F-86 Sabre. While the F-15 quickly became a favorite among nations like Israel and Japan, not everyone was convinced. Critics, particularly from the fighter mafia, argued that the F-15 was too big and expensive to perform well in close-range dogfight. This led to the Lightweight Fighter (LWF) program, which eventually produced the smaller General Dynamics F-16 Fighting Falcon for the Air Force and the McDonnell Douglas F/A-18 Hornet for the Navy. The single-seat F-15C and the two-seat F-15D models officially went into production in 1978, with their first flights taking place in February and June of that year. These updated models introduced the Production Eagle package, PEP 2000, adding 2,000 pounds of internal fuel capacity, making room for external conformal fuel tanks, CFT, and boosting the maximum takeoff weight to 68,000 pounds. The increased capacity allowed the aircraft to carry additional fuel and a full load of weapons, including 3 external fuel tanks. Their radar system, the APG-63, came with a programmable signal processor, PSP, which made it flexible for future upgrades and additional weapons integration. This radar system was revolutionary, marking the first time such technology was used in an aircraft. Other key improvements included stronger landing gear, a new digital central computer, and an overload warning system that allowed pilots to perform up to 9G maneuvers without weight limit. In 1983, the F-15 multi-stage improvement program kicked off, leading to the first MSIP upgraded F-50C being produced in 1985. These upgrades included an advanced central computer, a programmable armament control set, PACS, to integrate advanced versions of the AIM-7, AIM-9, and AIM-120A missiles and an enhanced tactical electronic warfare system, TEAS. The last 43 F-15Cs were outfitted with the Hughes APG-70 radar, which had been developed for the F-15E Strike Eagle. These were often called Enhanced Eagles. Many of the earlier MSIP F-15Cs, equipped with the APG-63 radar, were later upgraded to the APG-63 V1 version to enhance maintainability and performance. The engine also saw upgrades, with the F-100 PW220 engine replacing older versions starting in 1985, offering better throttle response, less wear, and lower fuel consumption. By 1997, the original F-100 PW100 engines were also upgraded to match the new configuration. The introduction of the APG-63 V2 radar system in 2000 gave 18 F-15C models even more advanced capabilities, while the Zone Acquisition Program, ZAP, allowed dynamic missile launch information to be relayed to the pilot in real time. In 1979, McDonnell Douglas, in collaboration with Hughes, developed a strike fighter version of the F-15, aiming to meet the Air Force's dual-role fighter competition. The result was the F-15E Strike Eagle, selected over the General Dynamics F-16XL in 1984. This model was a two-seat, dual-role fighter, designed for all-weather air-to-air and deep interdiction missions. The F-15E's rear cockpit featured multiple cathode ray tube displays for better weapons management and flight systems control. The triple redundant flight control system made it ideal for low-altitude, high-speed attacks, and the ring laser gyro inertial navigation system enhanced its precision. Equipped with an APG-70 radar and lantern pods, the F-15E was built for precision strikes in poor weather or at night. The F-15E eventually became the foundation for the F-15 Advanced Eagle series, which introduced fly-by-wire controls and is the basis for modern F-15 production. By 2006, the reduced production of the F-22 Raptor left the USAF seeking ways to modernize its fleet of F-15s. This led to plans to upgrade 179 F-15Cs with the APG-63V AESA radar and updated cockpit displays, the first of which were delivered in 2010. The F-15 fleet also received upgrades like the Joint Helmet-Mounted Queuing System and Infrared Search and Track (IRS) systems, developed by Lockheed Martin, which eventually evolved into the AN/ASG-34-1 IRST-21 system used in the Legion pod. Additionally, the AN/AQ-33 Sniper XR pod was temporarily integrated as an IRST solution. A significant upgrade called the Eagle Passive Active Warning Survivability System (EPWSS) was planned, with Boeing acting as the prime contractor and BAE Systems assisting. This system offered advanced electronic countermeasures, radar warning capabilities, and enhanced flare and chaff deployment in a more compact package than its 1980s predecessors. In September 2015, Boeing introduced the 2040C Eagle upgrade, also known as the Golden Eagle. With low F-22 production numbers, this upgrade was aimed at keeping the F-15 relevant until 2040. Golden Eagle built on the F-15 SE Silent Eagle concept, incorporating improvements like quadruple missile racks to double its load to 16, conformal fuel tanks for extended range, and the Talon Hate communication pod for integration with fifth-generation fighters. The APG-63 V3 radar, the Legion IRST pod, and the EPASS suite also contributed to its enhanced lethality. However, the 2040C upgrade was eventually shelved for the F-15CD due to the aging airframes, though many of its features were incorporated into the F-15E and the new F-15EX Eagle II, which was ordered by the USAF in 2020. The F-15EX took advantage of the advanced Eagle production line to minimize lead times and reduce costs, ensuring the continuation of the F-15 legacy. Design overview. The F-15's design reflects a focus on strength, maneuverability, and speed. Its airframe is made with a semi-monocoque structure featuring an all-metal body and a large shoulder-mounted wing. The wings have a modified delta shape with a 45-degree sweep along the leading edge. Ailerons and high-lift flaps are on the trailing edge, but no leading-edge flaps are used. Instead, the design incorporates a low wing loading and fixed leading-edge camber, helping the aircraft maintain control even without extra maneuvering flaps. The wings gradually become thinner, starting at 6% thickness at the root and tapering to 3% at the tip. The tail of the F-15 is made with a combination of metal and composite materials. Its vertical stabilizers use a honeycomb structure for strength, while the horizontal tails move independently, offering better roll control in combat maneuvers. Additional design features include a spine-mounted air brake and retractable tricycle landing gear. Powering the jet are two Pratt & Whitney F-100 axial turbofan engines with afterburners positioned side by side in the fuselage. These engines are fed by rectangular inlets with variable intake ramps that adjust to provide optimal airflow during flight. Cockpit, positioned high on the forward fuselage, offers the pilot a broad 360-degree view with its large one-piece canopy. In the 1980s, the airframe incorporated advanced titanium components for added strength. The F-15's exceptional agility is largely due to its low wing loading and high thrust-to-weight ratio, allowing it to make tight turns without sacrificing speed. This fighter can climb to an altitude of 30,000 feet in about 60 seconds. At certain speeds, the engine thrust exceeds the aircraft's total weight, enabling it to accelerate while flying straight up. Controls and weapons systems are designed so that one pilot can handle air combat with maximum efficiency. While the A and C models are single-seat fighters for air superiority missions, the B and D models add a second seat for training purposes. These versions are still fully combat capable, while the E model is equipped with a second seat for a weapons systems officer. One distinctive feature of the F-15 compared to other modern jets is the lack of turkey feather exhaust covers on its engine nozzles. These were removed after development issues caused them to come off during flight, which increased drag by about 3%. The F-15's durability was demonstrated in 1983 when an Israeli F-15D lost most of its right wing after colliding mid-air with an A-4 Skyhawk. Despite the severe damage, pilot Zvi Nedivi managed to land the plane by applying full afterburner and landing at double the normal speed. Subsequent tests showed that the aircraft could still be controlled with just one wing, though only within a narrow speed and angle range. This incident contributed to research on adaptive flight control systems and the development of an intelligent flight control system for managing damage. Avionics and radar systems. The F-15 comes equipped with a range of advanced avionics, including a head-up display, HUD, an inertial guidance system, and ultra-high-frequency communication systems. Its HUD projects all critical flight data, allowing the pilot to engage targets without having to look down at cockpit instruments. The F-15's radar systems, particularly the APG-63 and APG-70 pulse Doppler radars, are versatile and can detect targets at high altitudes and lock onto low-flying aircraft without interference from ground clutter. The radar is capable of tracking targets from beyond visual range to close-range combat, and it feeds data directly to the aircraft's central computer for accurate weapons targeting. For close-quarters dogfights, the radar automatically acquires enemy aircraft and displays the information on the HUD, helping the pilot track and engage the target. The F-15's electronic warfare systems also play a critical role by providing radar warning and automatic countermeasures against threats. The radar underwent significant upgrades with the introduction of the APG-63-2 and V3 systems. These newer active electronically scanned array (AESA) radars greatly improve pilot awareness, offering faster tracking updates and the ability to engage multiple targets simultaneously. The radar is fully compatible with modern missile systems, including the AIM-120 AIMRAAM, and allows the pilot to guide several missiles to different targets at the same time. Weaponry and external stores. The F-15 is equipped to handle a wide range of air-to-air weapons, making it a highly versatile fighter in combat situations. Its advanced automated weapon system allows the pilot to switch between different armaments quickly and safely. Using controls on the engine throttles or control stick, the pilot can engage the desired weapon, and the head-up display, HUD, provides visual guidance specific to that system. This setup ensures the pilot can stay focused on the mission without needing to divert attention from flying. In terms of weaponry, the F-15 carries an impressive loadout. It can be armed with up to 4 different types of air-to-air missile. On its lower fuselage corners, it can carry AIM-7F or AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles, which are designed for medium-range engagement. Additionally, it can load AIM-9L or AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles on pylons located under its wing. For close-range combat, the F-15 is equipped with a 20mm M61 Vulcan Gatling gun, mounted in the right wing root, providing rapid and devastating firepower. Another key feature of the F-15 is its ability to carry low-drag conformal fuel tanks, CFTs, which were initially developed for the F-50C and D models. These CFTs, originally called fast packs, fuel and sensor tactical packs, are attached to the sides of the engine intakes under the wings. They're designed to match the aircraft's performance standards, meaning they don't overly hinder speed or maneuverability, though they do increase aerodynamic drag slightly. Unlike traditional external fuel tanks, CFTs cannot be jettisoned during flight. However, they cause less drag overall, and each can hold 750 US gallons of fuel. This additional fuel capacity allows the F-15 to fly for longer periods without refueling, making it more effective during extended mission. Even with CFTs attached, all external weapon stations remain fully operational. Missiles such as the AIM-7 Sparrow or AIM-120 AMRAAM can still be mounted on the CFT corners, ensuring the fighter's combat readiness. The 57th Fighter Interceptor Squadron, based in Iceland, was one of the few to use CFTs regularly on their F-15C models, thanks to the long-range operations they performed over the North Atlantic. Nowadays, the F-15E variant is the primary model to use CFTs regularly. The CFTs have also been exported and are used by the air forces of Israel and Saudi Arabia, increasing their operational range and effectiveness in missions requiring longer flight times without mid-air refueling. Operational history, introduction, and early service. The United States Air Force, USAF, is the largest operator of the F-15 Eagle. The first delivery of an F-15B occurred on November 13, 1974. By January 1976, the first F-15 destined for active combat was delivered to the 555th Tactical Fighter Squadron, TFS. These early models were equipped with the Hughes APG-63 radar, which would later be upgraded by Raytheon as the technology progressed. One of the F-15's first significant combat milestones came through the Israeli Air Force, IAF. In 1979, Israeli ace Moshe Melnick scored the first-ever F-15 kill. During various air raids targeting Palestinian factions in Lebanon between 1979 and 1981, Israeli F-15As claimed the destruction of 13 Syrian Mi-21s and 2 MiG-25s. The F-15 also played a crucial role in Operation Opera, where Israeli F-15s and Bs provided escort for an airstrike on Iraq's nuclear reactor. In the 1982 Lebanon War, IAF F-15s were credited with downing 41 Syrian aircraft, including 23 MiG-21s, 17 MiG-23s, and 1 Aerospatiale Gazelle helicopter. The IAF continued its dominance during Operation Mole Cricket 19, where Israeli F-15s and F-16s combined to shoot down 82 Syrian fighters without suffering any losses. While the F-15 was designed primarily as an air superiority fighter, Israel was one of the few countries to explore its air-to-ground potential. This was mainly due to the F-15's range, which far exceeded other combat aircraft in Israel's arsenal during the 1980s. The first notable use of the F-15 in a strike mission occurred during Operation Wooden Leg on October 1, 1985. 6 F-15Ds attacked the PLO headquarters in Tunis, each carrying a GBU-15 guided bomb, while 2 F-15Cs followed up by bombing the site with 6 NK-82 unguided bombs. This mission was one of the rare instances in which air superiority variants of the F-15 ABC-D models were used in a tactical strike role. Since then, Israeli F-15s have been upgraded to carry a broader range of air-to-ground weaponry, including JDAM GPS-guided bombs and the Popeye missile. Saudi Arabia has also used the F-15 effectively in combat. On June 5, 1984, Royal Saudi Air Force, RSAF F-15C pilots reportedly shot down 2 Iranian F-4E Phantom IIs during a skirmish, showcasing the fighter's air superiority capabilities in the region. The U.S. Air Force, USAF, is the largest operator of the F-15 Eagle. The first delivery of an F-15B took place on November 13, 1974. By January 1976, the first F-15 slated for combat was delivered to the 555th Tactical Fighter Squadron. These early models were equipped with Hughes Aircraft's AG-63 radar system, which later became a Raytheon technology. The Israeli Air Force, IAF, quickly demonstrated the F-15's combat prowess. In 1979, ace pilot Moshe Melnick achieved the F-15's first air-to-air kill. Throughout the IAF's air raids on Palestinian factions in Lebanon from 1979 to 1981, F-15As downed 13 Syrian MiG-21s and 2 MiG-25s. F-15s also played a critical role in Operation Opera, where they escorted an airstrike on Iraq's nuclear reactor. During the 1982 Lebanon War, Israeli F-15s were credited with taking down 41 Syrian aircraft, including MiG-21s, MiG-23s, and a Gazelle helicopter. The F-15's dominance was further showcased during Operation Mole Cricket 19, where combined efforts with F-16s led to the downing of 82 Syrian fighters, without a single loss. While originally designed for air superiority, Israel uniquely adapted its F-15s for air-to-ground missions. This was primarily due to the F-15's range, which far surpassed other aircraft in the Israeli arsenal at the time. The first known strike mission involving F-15s occurred on October 1985 during Operation Wooden Leg. 6 F-15Ds attacked PLO headquarters in Tunis, each dropping a GBU-15 guided bomb, followed by 2 F-15Cs striking with Mech-82 unguided bombs. These missions were rare examples of air superiority F-15s being used for tactical strikes. Since then, Israel has significantly upgraded its F-15s, allowing them to carry a variety of air-to-ground weapons, including JDAM GPS-guided bombs and Popeye missiles. Saudi Arabia also improved the F-15's capabilities in combat. On June 5, 1984, Royal Saudi Air Force F-15C pilots reportedly shot down 2 Iranian F-4E Phantom IIs during a skirmish, highlighting the fighter's effectiveness in the region. In the mid-1980s, the F-15 Eagle was used in a unique role during the development of the ASM-135 anti-satellite (ASAT) missile. The missile was designed as a standoff weapon to target satellites, with the F-15 acting as the launch platform. Unlike traditional rocket launches, which could easily be tracked by the Soviet Union, an F-15 carrying an ASAT missile would blend in with other routine flights, making it more difficult to detect. From January 1984 to September 1986, 2 F-15As were modified to carry the ASM-135 missile on the centerline pylon, equipped with additional gear to handle the missile's launch. In these missions, the F-15 executed a high-speed climb, reaching Mach 1.22 and pulling 3.8 grams at a 65-degree angle to release the missile at an altitude of 38,100 feet. The aircraft's flight computer was specially updated to handle the precise requirements for this zoom climb and missile release. The third test flight in this program targeted a retired P-78-1 solar observatory satellite, which was orbiting 345 miles above Earth. The satellite was successfully destroyed by the missile's kinetic impact, marking a significant achievement. The mission made history as Major Wilbert D. Doug Pearson of the U.S. Air Force became the only pilot ever to destroy a satellite in space. In total, the ASAT program involved 5 test launches before it was officially terminated in 1988. Gulf War and aftermath. In August 1990, the U.S. Air Force, USAF, began deploying F-15C, D, and E models to the Persian Gulf region as part of Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. The F-15 played a critical role during the Gulf War, accounting for 36 of the 39 air-to-air victories by the USAF against Iraqi forces. Iraq confirmed the loss of 23 of its aircraft in these air-to-air encounters. The F-50C and D models were primarily tasked with air superiority missions, while the F-15E Strike Eagles focused on air-to-ground operations, particularly at night. Equipped with the Lantern system, the F-15Es hunted down modified Scud missile launchers and artillery positions. During the 1991 Gulf War, F-50Cs recorded 34 confirmed kills, most of them with missile fire. These victories included 5 MiG-29s, 2 MiG-25s, 8 MiG-23s, 2 MiG-21s, 2 Su-25s, 4 Su-22s, 1 Su-7, 6 Mirage F-1s, 1 L-76 cargo plane, Pilatus PC-9 trainer, and 2 Milmi-8 helicopters. According to the Naval History and Heritage Command, NHHC, there may have been an instance where an F-15 mistakenly downed a friendly F-14 Tomcat. The F-15E also achieved its first air-to-air kill during this conflict, destroying an Iraqi Mi-24 Hind helicopter with a GBU-10 laser-guided bomb on February 14, 1991. Air superiority was established within the first 3 days of the war, and many of the later kills involved Iraqi aircraft attempting to flee to Iran rather than engaging American forces. However, 2 F-15Es were lost to ground fire, and another was damaged in a Scud missile strike on King Abdulaziz Air Base. On November 11, 1990, a Royal Saudi Air Force (RSAF) pilot defected to Sudan with an F-15C during Operation Desert Shield. Saudi Arabia paid $40 million to recover the aircraft 3 months later. During Operation Desert Storm, RSAF F-15s shot down 2 Iraqi Mirage F-1s. However, 1 Saudi F-15C was lost in a crash in 1991. The Iraqi Air Force claimed that this aircraft was part of a pair of USAF F-50Cs engaged with 2 Iraqi MiG-25 PDs and was struck by an R-40 missile before crashing. The F-15 has continued to see action in various operations since then. It has been deployed in support of Operation Southern Watch, enforcing the no-fly zones over southern Iraq, and Operation Provide Comfort in Turkey. The F-15 also participated in NATO operations in Bosnia, as well as other air expeditionary deployments. In 1994, 2 U.S. Army UH-60 Black Hawks were mistakenly shot down by USAF F-50Cs in a tragic friendly fire incident over northern Iraq. Later, during NATO's intervention in Kosovo in 1999, USAF F-15Cs successfully shot down 4 Yugoslav MiG-29s using AIM-120 and AIM-7 radar-guided missiles during Operation Allied Force. Structural defects. In a serious incident on November 2, 2007, a Missouri Air National Guard F-50C broke apart mid-flight and crashed, prompting the U.S. Air Force, USAF, to ground all F-15s as a precaution. While the newer F-50E models were quickly cleared to resume flying, an investigation revealed a critical issue with the F-15C. On November 28, 2007, the USAF identified the failure in the upper longerons, the structural components near the fuselage, which caused the forward section of the aircraft, including the cockpit and nose, to separate from the rest of the airframe during flight. As a result, all F-15A through D models were grounded until these areas could be thoroughly inspected and, if necessary, repaired. Grounding drew significant media attention, especially as it affected the nation's air defense capability. Some states had to rely on neighboring states' aircraft for protection, while Alaska turned to Canadian fighter jets to fill the gap. By January 8, 2008, the Air Combat Command, ACC, allowed a portion of the older F-15 fleet to return to service, though this was done cautiously and with limitation. On January 10th, the Accident Review Board released a report concluding that the longeron in the F-15C involved in the crash had not met the necessary specifications, leading to fatigue cracks and, ultimately, catastrophic failure during flight. The review also identified 9 other F-15s with similar structural defects. In light of these findings, General John D.W. Corley raised concerns about the F-15's long-term viability. However, on February 15, 2008, ACC gave the green light for all grounded F-15A, B, C, D models to resume operations, provided they underwent thorough inspections, engineering reviews, and any required repairs. ACC also recommended that other F-15 units across the U.S. follow similar protocols before returning to normal flight operation. Later service, the F-15 Eagle has an impressive track record, with a combined air-to-air combat record of 104 kills and 0 losses through 2008. The air superiority variants, F-15A, B, C, D, have never been lost in enemy action. Over half of these victories were claimed by Israeli Air Force pilots, showcasing the aircraft's effectiveness in combat. On September 16, 2009, the last F-15A in service with the Oregon Air National Guard was retired, marking the end of the F-15A and F-15B models in U.S. operations. However, the F-15C and D models continued to serve alongside the newer F-22 Raptors in the USAF's frontline. During the 2000s, the Department of Defense shifted its focus towards counterinsurgency efforts in the Middle East, which resulted in a reduced procurement of the F-22. Only 187 operational units were delivered. This cutback meant the USAF had to keep the F-15CD models in service longer than originally planned. By 2007, the USAF intended to maintain 179 F-50CDs and 224 F-50Es in service beyond 2025. Throughout the 2010s, these F-15CDs were regularly stationed at overseas bases like Kadena Air Base in Japan and RAF Lakenheath in the UK. Back in the US, F-15s continued to play key roles as aggressor platforms at Nellis AFB, Nevada, and were used for testing and evaluation at Edwards and Eglin Air Force bases. All remaining combat-ready F-15CDs were operated by the Air National Guard. In an effort to extend the operational life of the F-15CD, the USAF upgraded 179 aircraft with the AN/APG-63V3 AESA radar starting in 2010. Further enhancements, such as the integration of IRST pods and cockpit upgrades, were also added. Despite these efforts, maintaining the aging fleet became increasingly challenging. Budget constraints, including sequestration in FY 2015, led to discussions about potentially retiring the F-15C fleet. By the mid-2010s, it became clear that keeping the F-50CD operational through the 2030s was no longer sustainable. The USAF ultimately decided against Boeing's proposed F-15 2040C upgrade. In April 2017, USAF leadership announced plans to retire the F-50CD models by the mid-2020s, exploring the possibility of shifting the F-16 into some of the roles previously filled by the F-15, while also considering new ways to modernize the fighter fleet. By late 2018 and into 2019, the Department of Defense's Cost Analysis and Program Evaluation (CAPE) office conducted studies to find a cost-effective way to recapitalize the fighter fleet. The outcome led to the Pentagon requesting new-build F-50EX aircraft in its FY 2020 budget. This advanced variant, based on the export F-15QA, was designed to replace the aging F-15Cs and complement the limited F-22 fleet. A total of 144 F-15EXs were planned for procurement, taking advantage of the existing export production line, which made them more affordable and quicker to deliver. Reviving F-22 production was considered too expensive. In 2022, the USAF announced plans to retire the entire fleet of F-15CDs by 2026, with the F-15Es expected to remain in service into the 2030s. Yemen Civil War. During the ongoing Yemeni civil war, began in 2015, Houthi forces have modified R-27T missiles to function as surface-to-air weapon. On January 7, 2018, a video surfaced showing one of these modified missiles striking a Saudi F-15 on a forward-looking infrared camera. Houthi rebels claim to have brought down the aircraft, but this has been disputed. The missile appeared to detonate nearby, yet the F-15 continued flying, seemingly undamaged. Shortly after, rebels released footage of wreckage, but serial numbers indicated it was likely an Avia Tornado, another aircraft used by Saudi forces. On January 8, Saudi authorities confirmed the loss of an aircraft, but attributed it to technical issues rather than enemy fire. A few months later, on March 21, 2018, Houthi rebels released another video. This time, they claimed to have struck and potentially downed a Saudi F-15 in the Sada province. The footage showed a modified R-27T missile launched at the aircraft, hitting its target. However, similar to the previous incident, the jet was not confirmed as destroyed. Saudi forces acknowledged the hit but stated the F-15 safely returned to a base. The Saudi military confirmed the incident, noting that the attack took place at 3:48 p.m. local time, with the missile launched from within Sada airport. Following a significant Houthi attack on Saudi oil facilities on September 14, 2019, Kingdom deployed F-15 fighters to intercept low-flying drones, which proved difficult to engage with traditional high-altitude missile systems like the MIM-104 Patriot. Since then, several drones have been successfully intercepted and downed. On July 2, 2020, a Saudi F-15 shot down two Houthi Shahed 129 drones flying over Yemen. Again, On March 7, 2021, during another wave of Houthi attacks on Saudi oil infrastructure, F-15s took down multiple drones using heat-seeking AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles, with video footage confirming at least 2 Samad-3 UAVs and 1 Kasef-2K were destroyed. Later, on March 30, 2021, Saudi border guards captured footage of an F-15 shooting down another Kasef-2K drone with a short-range AIM-120 AMRAAM missile. Operators of the F-15 Eagle. The F-15 Eagle has been a critical asset for several air forces around the world, particularly in its A, B, C, and D variants. While this list focuses on these specific models, the F-15E Strike Eagle and its various derivatives, such as the F-15I, F-15S, F-15K, F-15SG, and the F-15EX, are covered in a separate section. Israel. The Israeli Air Force, IAF, has been operating F-15 since 1977. As of 2022, Israel maintains a fleet consisting of 38 F-15A, 6 F-15B, 16 F-15C, and 11 F-50D variants. The IAF has continuously updated these aircraft to ensure their relevance in modern combat scenarios. Japan. The Japan Air Self-Defense Force, JSDF, operates a significant number of F-15s, with 155 F-15J and 44 F-50DJ fighters produced under license by Mitsubishi Heavy Industry. These aircraft have been a key part of Japan's air defense strategy. Saudi Arabia. The Royal Saudi Air Force, RSAF, operates 46 F-15C and 16 F-50D fighters, playing an essential role in maintaining Saudi airspace security as of 2024. United States. The United States Air Force, USAF, continues to be the largest operator of the F-15. As of mid-2022, the USAF operates 168 F-50C and 18 F-50D aircraft. These planes, although aging, are being upgraded to maintain their combat effectiveness. NASA uses F-15s primarily for research purposes. They currently operate one F-15B, number 836, as a test bed for various flight research experiments, along with 2 F-50D models, 884 and 897, for research support and pilot proficiency. In the past, NASA also used another F-50B 835 for testing advanced systems, such as the highly integrated digital engine control, at Edwards Air Force Base in 1988. Notable F-15 accidents. The F-15 Eagle, known for its reliability, has seen 175 losses due to non-combat related causes as of June 2016. Despite this number, the aircraft maintains an impressive record, averaging just 1 loss per 50,000 flight hours. One particularly remarkable incident occurred on May 1, 1983, when an Israeli Air Force F-15D collided mid-air with an A-4 Skyhawk during a training exercise. The collision nearly severed the F-15's right wing. Incredibly, the pilot managed to control the aircraft and safely landed at an airbase, albeit at double the usual landing speed. The plane was later repaired and returned to service, even seeing further combat. On March 26, 2001, 2 USAF F-15Cs tragically crashed in the Scottish Highlands during a low-altitude training mission near Ben Macdui. Both Lieutenant Colonel Kenneth John Hivonen and Captain Kirk Jones lost their lives in the accident. An RAF air traffic controller faced a court-martial over the incident but was ultimately acquitted. A major structural failure led to another significant incident on November 2, 2007. An F-15C from the Missouri Air National Guard, serial number 800034, broke apart mid-flight during combat training near St. Louis. The pilot, Major Stephen W. Stillwell, ejected but sustained severe injuries. Following the crash, the USAF grounded all non-essential F-15s pending an investigation. By November 13, 2007, over 1,100 F-15s worldwide, including those in Israel, Japan, and Saudi Arabia, grounded. F-15E models were allowed to resume flying by November 15 after passing inspections. On January 8, 2008, the USAF cleared 60% of the grounded F-15A, B, C, D models to fly again. An Accident Review Board's report released on January 10, 2008, revealed that the crash occurred due to a longeron, a structural component, failing to meet design specifications, leading to fatigue cracks and the aircraft's disintegration mid-flight. By February 15, 2008, all grounded F-15s were cleared for flight after inspections and necessary repairs. Major Stillwell later filed a lawsuit against Boeing in March 2008. though it was dismissed by April 2009. Notable appearances in media. The F-15 Eagle has made a strong impression in various forms of media. One of its most notable appearances is in the IMAX documentary Fighter Pilot Operation Red Flag, which delves into the intense red flag training exercises, offering a close-up view of the aircraft in action. Tom Clancy's non-fiction work, Fighter Wing, A Guided Tour of an Air Force Combat Wing, 1995, also highlights the F-15, providing an in-depth analysis of its capabilities as the premier fighter aircraft of the U.S. Air Force. Beyond documentaries and books, the F-15 has inspired a wide range of popular culture. Its likeness has been featured in many toys, reflecting its iconic status in aviation. The F-15 has also made appearances in various forms of entertainment, such as cartoons, video games, animated television series, and films, often portrayed as a powerful and versatile fighter jet, cementing its place in the public imagination. The legacy of the F-15 Eagle extends far beyond its combat achievements. From its early design as a premier air superiority fighter to its continuous evolution and presence in the skies, the F-15 has earned its place as one of the most formidable aircraft in history. Whether in high-stakes military operations, breaking records, or inspiring stories in media and entertainment, the F-15 remains a symbol of power, precision, and resilience. As new technologies emerge and the landscape of air warfare shifts, the Eagle's influence endures, leaving behind a legacy that will be remembered for generations to come.